them, there's no doubt in my mind that Murillo is a far, far superior centre-back. Murillo, enjoy him while you can, because if it all goes right, he's not going to be there forever. Dangerous than Almiron. He's stronger on the ball than Almiron. There's some pace there. You know, he's been very, very hard to stop.
Guys, welcome back to the channel, and we've got an absolute cracking episode for you because we have the man, the myth, the legend, Tim Vickery, to tell us all about our South American players and what we can expect and the perception even of them over in South America. So Tim, thank you so much for joining us, mate. How are you doing?
Yeah,
and it's a pleasure to have you on.
No, my pleasure. I just want to emphasise for those who are watching this that these are blue hoops. It's not Notts County, all right? Let's get that one straight.
We don't mind Notts County too much, as long as it's not just straight up white Derby style. We can forgive you on that one, mate. We can forgive you on that one. So I just wanted to kick off with a couple of the new signings, mate. And I just wanted to start with the goalkeeper, Carlos Miguel, who's come up. He's huge. He seems to have a great personality. But there's been a few stories about him and his move, and it seems to have got sour from the Corinthians fans. I think I'm pronouncing that correct. Yep. I just wonder if you could give us a little insight into the move and what it was like from the South American side.
Well, the reason that it proved so controversial is that he ended up moving at a point where the club really needed him. And this is the club's fault. It's not his fault. This is the club's fault. He was the backup goalkeeper for 3 years at Corinthians, and there isn't very much in his career. You know, he's mid-20s, but he's been a backup keeper. But anyway, he was backup at Corinthians. Corinthians are a massive team, the biggest supported club in the biggest city of South America, Sao Paulo. But they're a shambles at the moment. They're a real shambles. I mean, at the time of writing, they're back at the time of speaking. They're battling against relegation, and they've been absolute shambles off the field. The president is suffering an impeachment threat. They lost their sponsor for a while because the money was being diverted into suspicious private accounts. So that they've been an absolute zoo, and they've been a zoo on this one. Carlos Miguel was backup to a fellow called Casio, another giant keeper, not quite as giant as Carlos Miguel, but few are. And he'd been the keeper for years and years and years. Chelsea fans might remember him because when Corinthians beat Chelsea in the final of the Club World Cup, the end of 2012, Casio was the man of the match. So he's been there nearly 15 years, you know, an absolute club legend. But they hadn't got their contracts down right. The club hadn't got their contracts down right. So they let Casio move. Casio went to Cruzeiro, another big club. So come on down, Carlos Miguel. But they haven't got him sorted out either. You know, so suddenly the fact that there's a move coming in for him, they didn't expect this. They didn't expect that there would be this interest in him. And I think they just took it for granted that, all right, we can lose Casio, but we got Carlos Miguel to come in. But they didn't, because they didn't have him down, and they had a bid coming in for him. Now, why did Forest bid for him? How do they know him? As I understand it, this has everything to do with your centre-back, Murillo. Because Murillo bought from Corinthians. You know, he's played there with Carlos Miguel, and he knows, wow, there's a keeper here. And for Corinthians, he got very, very few chances because, as I say, he was back up to Casio.
Yeah.
But every time, and sometimes there were pressure games in difficult circumstances, every time he came in, you thought, he's got it. This one's good. This is... This isn't a raw rookie. This is a dependable backup keeper that you've got. So his problem there with Corinthians is that he wanted out at exactly the moment when finally the club needed him because they let Casio go. So on this one, the fault is entirely with the club and not with Carlos Miguel at all.
Yeah, and they had the 3.5 million release clause in there. But did it get quite ugly with the fans? I mean, I have a few Corinthian fans who were telling me that he was almost Judas to them because, as you mentioned, he got the chance and he's turned his back on them at their time of need. And there was talks that he was almost faking an ankle injury to help the move progress. How was it from the fans' perspective? Did they see it as you put it, that it is the club's fault, or did they blame Carlos
No, I
Miguel?
blamed him as well. Yeah, blamed him as well. Because no, we need you now. Where are you? And the then manager, they've since changed the coach. The then coach said he's not going to play for this club anymore because he'd said he didn't want to jeopardise the move. It's the opportunity of a lifetime for it. It's quite entitled to do it. So fans often think with the heart rather than the head, and they were blaming the player for an administrative fault with the club because for a while Corinthians really didn't know what to do. They really didn't know what to do. They've signed subsequently. They've signed a good goalkeeper, and he's on loan with them, Hugo Sosa, and he's doing well. So that particular problem has now washed over. That's now part of the past. But for a while there, middle of the year, at the time when the deal was going through, that was a real problem for Corinthians. The lack of a decent goalkeeper.
Yeah, fascinating. And just as you mentioned Murillo, I just want to touch on Murillo's current persona because he's come into the Forest team. He's been absolutely sensational. We saw a few interviews done with him over the summer while he was out in Brazil, where he was talking about he would like to play for Man City. I'm sure it was lost in translation and what have you. But were these interviews happening, and were these like being aired across Brazil, and it was open for everyone to hear on his thoughts?
Yeah, it got picked up by big media, but really, there's not really any surprise there. I mean, I'm going to have to break this one to you gently.
Please do.
There aren't too many Brazilians who grow up with a burning ambition to spend their life representing Nottingham Forest.
Even with our 2 stars.
Yeah, indeed. There are people of a certain age, kind of my generation, I'm 59, who kind of support the club because they just caught that era of the two European Cup wins. But subsequent to that, especially with the time that Forest spent in the Championship, that they would be seen through the prism of a small club, which doesn't apply. It's a perspective that they have in Brazil about big clubs and small clubs, and they're usually amazed because one they thought was a small club was at Everton, and I remember Rodrigo, who had a spell with them. Unfortunately, he got injured early; it didn't last very long, but he was just overwhelmed with it. I had no idea that the club was this big and this important, and I think people feel that when they go over about Forest as well. But from the fans' point of view, and for example, when Gustavo Scarpa was there,
loved him.
Yeah, it's a good story. It's a good story. It was a gamble that partly, I think, for reasons off the field, didn't come off. But
the crypto.
Yes, losing his life savings. It's not the best way to have your head right.
To start.
I always doubted that it would because he's not express pace and he's very one-footed. So where is he going to find space in the Premier League? But I remember loads of Brazilian fans at the time saying, "Look at him! Look what he's done! He's thrown it because he was with Palmeiras. He's with the Brazil leaders, and he's thrown it away to waste his time on the bench of a small club in England." So that's the way that a lot of the fans would see it, and the idea of someone going to a club like Forest is that they're going to do sufficiently well to attract the attention of one of the clubs who's in the running for the silverware. So with Murillo, if everything goes well, unless Forest suddenly become once again contenders to win the biggest prize in Europe, it's likely that you're not going to enjoy him for a great deal of time. But you will make an immense profit on him because What, and he played so little. It was like 20, 25 games. It
Yeah,
was like 2 or 3
yeah.
months, but he looked great. The thing that worried me at the time, the doubt I had of him, because the Corinthians that he was playing in were defending almost behind the goal. They were so deep.
Mm,
And the Premier League sides, the game is more condensed. You're defending higher. Can he adapt to that? That can be difficult, and he did. Because he's quick. And there's everything there in his game. It is, to me, a major injustice that he's not in the Brazil squad. They've got another one in there who's similarly lacking in experience. Fellow called Lucas Beraldo, who's now with Paris Saint-Germain, same age, but
mm,
he
mm.
played in the club side of the current Brazil coach. So they've got a relationship. But of the two
Yeah.
of them, there's no doubt in my mind that Murillo is a far, far superior centre back to Lucas Beraldo. So Murillo, enjoy him while you can, because if it all goes right, he's not going to be there forever.
Oh God, you're worrying me. Small club, Murillo leaving. Is there talks that in Brazil that he should be made? A bit like what you said. Is there an expectation that he should be, based on what he's doing in the Premier League, that he should be part of that Brazilian team, especially as we've seen, the aging defense and almost this new generation starting to come through in Brazil?
Not the team, but the squad, yes.
Yeah.
The team, remember, as a left-sided centre-back, they've got Gabriel
Yeah.
Magalhães of Arsenal, who's
Yeah.
because it's Arsenal, he's much, much more. And they've
Yeah.
got
Higher profile.
Marquinhos and Eder Militão, both of whom are right-footed, but Marquinhos can play on the left as well. So not the team, but certainly the squad. Although this is the downside of playing for Forest, it means that you're not being followed by everyone.
Mm.
That's an added reason for him to want to go to a Man City, because then the big Champions League games, they're going to be broadcast. Everyone's going, people are going to watch them, and people aren't going to watch Forest. People will watch Forest. On Premier League games are on here, but many people will watch a Forest game because it's against Man City or Arsenal or something like that. So there is a desire to use it as a stepping stone, and I'm sure that's what's going to happen with Murillo. And I think it's going to be a stepping stone that works for everyone, because Forest are going to make an absolute fortune on him.
Yeah. And I feel from what you said, that's probably his mindset, that he's thinking. I'm sure it's one of his dreams to represent his country, like we've seen with Morgan Gibbs-White this week, etc. So fascinating on that. You've kind of depressed me a little. I'm not going to lie, but I'll enjoy him while he's still here. I was interested to what you said about Scarpa, because I feel we've got a similar type of player coming in Sosa, who's recently moved across to Forest, and it seemed like he was forcing a move through and was really keen on coming to Forest.
Oh, yes, he was. Yes.
Yeah. How was that taken from that side of the pond, so to speak? Because there was a lot of, he's coming, he's on a plane, the plane's been turned around. They were accusing Forest of not paying the price that was agreed and so on. What was it like from what you guys were hearing from the South America side?
He was in Argentina with Talleres of Cordoba, who are a provincial force and not a traditionally strong club, but a rising force, playing in front of big crowds.
Yeah.
And this came just before they're involved in the biggest game of the year, which is the last 16 of South America's Champions League. Against River Plate. Yeah, against the Giants. So this is a massive, massive occasion. It's the reason that, say, Andre, who was linked with Forest, linked with United, linked with Fulham, ended up going to Wolves. It's the reason that his move didn't happen until the end of the window, because his team, Fluminense, were in the same competition, and Fluminense really wanted to keep him for those two games. Talleres would have loved to have kept Ramon Sosa for those two games against River Plate. And so there was, well, we need the money. It's an export industry. So, great. We got an offer in. We're going to sell him, but we ain't going to let him go until we're absolutely sure that this is going to go through. So it was a disappointment for Talleres, but at least they got the money, although they did lose to River Plate. But Nottingham Forest now have the player.
Yeah. And what can you tell us about the player, and how do you feel he would adapt to the Premier League?
Like him very much. Very, very much. And he's a real late developer. He's just turned last week. I think he just turned 25.
Yeah.
which is relatively late to be making this kind of move. 23 is quite often a cut-off point.
Yeah.
Another reason that Scarpa was very much an exception and a gamble. They took him later. And a late developer in the sense that he's Paraguayan, but he didn't play for any of Paraguay's youth sides, any at all. So it's been kind of step by step over the last 4 or 5 years. First small club in Paraguay to big club in Paraguay, and then to one club in Argentina, and then another club in Argentina, and where he was, Talleres. They are a club on the up and up. And the last year that he played with Talleres was sensational. It was really, really good. He was one of the outstanding players in Argentine football in a way that makes you think that he can make the transition. He's essentially a winger, right-footed, but plays mostly on the left, cutting in. Well, the comparison with Scarpa here is obvious. He's so much quicker and so much more physical. He's a little bull, you know. He's a little tractor, and he's flowering. He was on the bench for Paraguay the other night, Friday night against Uruguay. Wouldn't be surprised for me if they start him Tuesday night against Brazil, because well, he's been outperforming Almiron for Paraguay over the last year.
Yeah.
He looks more dangerous than Almiron. He's stronger on the ball than Almiron. There's some pace there. You know, he's been very, very hard to stop in club football in South America, and he's looked promising in what has been a very poor Paraguay side. I mean, 7 rounds of World Cup qualification, they've scored 1 goal. Copa America in the summer, they lost all 3 games. So the side is really struggling. But even in that very disappointing context, he's been shining. He's been catching the eye. And you think that the physicality that he's got, it means it's going to be far, far easier for him to adapt than a figure like Gustavo Scarpa.
And does he have the versatility for both sides?
Yes.
I know you said he prefers to cut in. Could we see him on the right-hand side as well?
Yeah, you most certainly could. I mean, it's the natural side that enables him to go out.
Yeah.
So if Chris Wood's looking for crosses from that side, then better play him on the right and get him going out and putting crosses in. So yes, he can do either flank.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. I can't wait to see him properly. We've seen him in the cup. We saw him in a few minutes in our last game, and I just think we're quite stacked now on wingers, because obviously we've got Jota Silva coming in as well. We've got Callum Hudson-Odoi, Elanga, so quite a lot. I think Nuno's got a bit of a headache trying to figure out what his best one's going to be. We did bring in another Brazilian, mate, in Morato.
Yeah, I don't really know him. He's done his career abroad, so he's one I haven't seen over here.
Yeah, he had a little bit, didn't he, in Sao Paulo, but didn't play, I don't think, at all for them. So he's one that kind of just see what we get with him.
Otherwise, I mean, it's a great shame about Danilo, that out long term. How's Nico Dominguez getting on?
I love him. He's like a little terrier in midfield. His work rates are unbelievable, and he's really good at pressing the ball up high. For me, the issue I have with him, he seems to gas quite early in a match. He'll last about 60 or so minutes, and then he's usually subbed off. And I think that's because of the amount of effort he puts into the game. At the moment, I don't feel like he's a favourite in Nuno's eyes in terms of a starting 11 player. But I would make an argument that he is good enough to get in there just because of the qualities he brings, and he allows us to get a bit of a high press going on. So he's on the fringes at the moment, is probably the best way I'd describe him. But Danilo was, and it felt like Nuno's number 1 choice at the start of the season alongside Sangare, and then obviously he picked up the injury. But on Danilo, would you say he was more a CDM or a CM or an 8 from what you saw of him in Brazil? Because there's a debate we still have here on this side.
He can do everything, can't he? He can do it all, I think. I would prefer him as what we call over here the second man in midfield.
Yeah.
The first one is the most defensive. And then the second is doing ball winning duties, but also linking up. And he's got a good engine on him. Good engine and nice left foot. So I would rather have him as a holder rather than have him as a holder. I would have him as a second man linking up.
almost like a box to box
Yes,
midfielder
yes.
kind of
I
thing.
don't
Yeah,
think he offers quite enough in the final third of the field.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but as the
He scored a couple of crackers. They pop out every now and
right,
again, but yeah, his shooting isn't that consistent, in my opinion. Yeah.
and I don't remember that often seeing him run beyond the striker. So and he was flowering in Brazil as well until he got a call up to the national team, and then
Mm.
it struck me maybe as one of those situations where he has a call up, he has a look at the best, and he thought, blimey, it's a bit better than I thought. So I worried a little bit when he first came to Forest. Would he be overawed by it? But he doesn't seem to have been, and
Yeah, he had a little settling in period, a couple of shaky games to start
right,
with, and then he kind of just slotted in, and he was one of the main reasons we stayed up in that
right,
first season. Cooper started playing him in a slightly more advanced position
hmm
alongside Morgan Gibbs-White, and he scored that cracking goal against Southampton with the Morgan Gibbs-White back heel. So it's really sad to see what happened to him so early on in the season, but luckily, it's not going to be as long term as some
oh,
feared
good,
when
good,
they first saw it. Yeah, we're hopeful. There's rumors about end of December, beginning of January,
hmm
so fingers crossed he gets
good.
a recovery there. There's one other player I wanted to ask you about, Tim, if you don't mind. It's I'm not sure I pronounced it right. Riquelme from Palmeiras. The young kids there. Riquelme Felipe Marino de Souza, I think is his full
Yeah,
name.
he hasn't really got
Um,
first team yet. So
yeah, but there's been a lot of links with him at Forest. I don't know if you heard it from your side, because there's the whole 18-year-old age thing before they're allowed to
yeah.
travel. And what we were hearing was there was a deal very close to being done, but he probably wouldn't come until the January window. I don't know if you've
No,
heard
and
anything
also,
on
and
him
the
at all.
fact that he's not really a first team player yet means that
Mm,
he's not going to get that many column inches.
yeah, so one to watch out for maybe going forward. Um, I guess the final question I got for you, mate, and thank you again for your time. I do much appreciate it. Seems like Forest are doing a lot of scouting down in South America.
Yeah.
Our network is quite big there. Is there any names you would recommend for us to watch out for, especially as we need a striker
Yeah,
pretty
who doesn't?
pretty badly
Who
at the
doesn't?
moment?
Yes,
And we were linked because I think is it Pedro? He's been
Pedro.
injured now,
Long
hasn't he?
term,
Yeah,
long term.
yeah,
He's done an ACL. He's going to be out for a long time, which is one that fascinated me because uh, he's not quick,
mm,
and he doesn't
mm,
offer a great deal back to goal. He's a penalty
yeah,
area, but he's technically wonderful in the penalty area.
yeah,
But English football, a lot of it takes place between the penalty areas. The
yeah,
defensive lines in Brazil play much deeper. And when you're at a club like Flamengo, you're expecting to be dominating the opposition, and so the game is taking place in and around the penalty area, and you're bringing Pedro into the game a lot. Quite how he would have fared in the Premier League, I don't know, and I suspect now we won't ever know
yeah,
because he's 27 already, and he's going to be out until he's
yeah.
28, and it's difficult to see. And he had a spell at Fiorentina who just instantly gave up on him, instantly.
Mm.
Although he'd done another.
But he's well loved,
Oh, he's
isn't he?
loved. Yeah, yeah.
Because we got loads of messages saying you can't have him. You haven't got the money for
Yeah,
him, from all the fans there saying no, 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 no.
yeah.
So he seems to be a bit of a.
No, he's
I've not seen.
he's an absolute idol, and
Yeah,
he
so,
would have started for Brazil on Friday night. He would have started.
yeah.
That was his big opportunity, and they took him to the World Cup, and it was a waste of space
Mm,
because not quick enough to press. It's one of the reasons they got knocked out. I
yeah,
think if they'd taken Firmino and not Pedro,
yeah,
I think their chance against Croatia, because their problem against Croatia was that they couldn't press. Um, Gabriel Jesus was injured. Richarlison was
yeah.
injured
I've
and,
heard.
and, and limped off early. Uh, and they brought him on. And not quick enough to press. And if you can't press Croatia at the back, they just get the ball to Modric. And then that's the
Yeah,
game. The game is, it was a
yeah,
1-1 draw with Croatia equalising in the last minute. But so it was a waste of time, I think, taking him to the World Cup. They've been trying to work on him since, trying to broaden his game a little bit. And I was fascinated. I was going to be fascinated to see him on Friday. Can you do it? Because Ecuador have got some great centre backs, good, strong, physically strong centre backs. Can you do it against them? And if so, can you do it in the Premier League? But now I fear we're not going to find out.
yeah. And he's, as you say, it was his pace that worried me. when I saw the link with him, because the Premier League is a pretty pacey
Yeah,
league.
and you can knock him off the ball. He's not that strong on
Yeah,
the. He's not
yeah,
great back to goal either. You know, he's
mm,
fabulous finishing and just playing little. He's got great vision, technique in the penalty area. Just playing
yeah.
little passes there, but you up the ante physically, and that's a worry. So strikers, I mean, strikers are gold dust, aren't they? And also, I
Yeah,
don't Flamengo not needing to sell. I think the amount of money that Forest was offering was
about 25 or
yeah, I
something,
don't think it was
wasn't it? Something like
anywhere
that. Yeah,
near what Flamengo. It only would have
yeah,
worked had the player said, "Look, I'm going. You know, this chance
yeah.
isn't going to come again." There's one. He's not a striker, but and he's not very happy that he didn't move in this window. He's a little Colombian who plays for Fluminense here in Rio in Brazil, called John Arias. Part of the Colombian side as a disciplined member of their midfield three. For Fluminense, he's got free reign as a winger. Little squat figure. If you saw the final of the Club World Cup, Man City against Fluminense, the end of last year, Fluminense were just outgunned. Arias was the one on his own who carried the fight. So
Yep.
and he's another late developer. He's what, 26, 27, something like that. And the club, they got bids from like Turkey and at the end, and I think Girona in Spain, and they wouldn't let him go. And he's absolutely spewing about it. So he wants to go. He wants
Yeah.
he wants out, and because he's that little bit older, tick 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 tick. So John Arias is well worth watching as a versatile, dynamic midfielder who can also and he plays in a very disciplined role with Colombia to accommodate James Rodriguez. But I think he's an absolute class act, and I'm amazed that he didn't that bigger money offers from bigger leagues didn't come in this window. And if they didn't come in this time, maybe in January.
Forest, if you're watching, go get it done. Go get it done. Tim, thank you so much for your time, mate. I've taken up so much of it. Where can the guys find you? Because you're everywhere. Yeah, I see you on Sky, on Talk Sport, on BBC. What's the best place to find you? Is it on Instagram?
No, well, no, not really. Instagram I use just to mess around. On it,
Yeah.
I should say Twitter, but we got a problem with
But
it.
you've been banned,
Yeah, well,
haven't
we
you?
got a problem with it in
Well, not
Brazil.
you, but yeah.
I
Yeah.
still managed to get it to work occasionally, you know. Occasionally, I don't know how long it's going to be banned for, but at the moment, you know, there's
Okay.
because for journos, it's a disaster not having it. You know,
Mm,
it's where all the
mm.
info comes to us. I'm a bit like Dusty Springfield at the moment. Just don't know what to do with myself without Twitter. But
Careful. I've heard there's $15,000 fines or something like that on anyone using VPNs
VPN,
to get
yeah, I
onto it.
doubt that's going to be
Yeah.
enacted. To be honest, that's a bit draconian. I do understand why they've banned it because Elon Musk is just
Yeah.
out of control
He is.
after trying to get a civil war going in England. You know, absolutely, this has to be brought under control, and some governments have to stand up to him. But in the meantime, it means I don't know what to do with myself. No Twitter, no life.
Go on holiday, mate. Take a little break. Tim, you've been an absolute legend. Guys, looking forward to seeing your comments. How do you feel about those players? And have you got a little more insight into what we should expect from them now? Please make sure you've hit that like button. Subscribe if you're new. We'll see you on the next video. Come on, you Reds.